If you eat too many ultra-processed foods, you could be starving your gut microbes, and they'll get hangry. That's one of many things I learned after working on a new audio course about the gut microbiome. You can learn how to keep your gut happy by listening to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn. I host Try This. Dig in with me on practical advice for life's common challenges. Follow Try This right now wherever you're listening. Seriously, try it.
It's KFI AM 640, and you're listening to The Conway Show on demand on the iHeartRadio app. KFI AM 640, it's Conway Show. High-speed chase. We're going to have details on what happened at the end of that chase coming up in the next hour or so. But first, let me take you back to 1976, Dodger Stadium. Two idiots try to burn a flag in center field, and Rick Monday, who was not playing for the Dodgers at the time, goes and grabs the flag, takes it away. Here's Vin Scully calling that incident.
I'm not sure what he's doing out there. It looks like he's going to burn a flag, and Rick Monday runs and takes it away from him. And so Monday, I think a guy was going to set fire to the American flag. Can you imagine that?
How about that? 1976, Vin Scully. Guy was about to set fire to an American flag. Can you imagine that? Nowadays? The people pile on to try to burn that flag, but not Rick Monday. And Rick Monday is with us. Rick, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. 76. That's when I could run much faster. So, yeah, at least I had a fighting chance to be able to get there. How are you, my friend?
Rick, I'm doing great. What a year for you guys, for the Dodgers. A very sad, day for the Dodgers with Fernando Valenzuela. But man, I really adored that gentleman. I have so many great memories of my childhood being there in 1981 on opening day, driving back from San Diego, passing Dodger Stadium when Vin Scully called that no-hitter and throw your sombrero to the sky. I don't think any one person in Los Angeles, player, manager, owner, whatever, had a bigger impact than Fernando Valenzuela.
I agree wholeheartedly. Jackie Robinson, obviously, coming up in 47 within the Brooklyn Dodgers, obviously made an impact on culture. And I also think Fernando did as well.
Yep.
We were aware that this was not going to be this was not going to go well for Fernando from a health standpoint. But we knew in advance. But that still does not really diminish what I feel is really an emptiness. Fernando was more than just a teammate. He was a friend. And I think that same thing applies to people that never met him but viewed him as a friend. That's the way I described Vin Scully. I said, well, before I ever met Vin Scully, I mean, he was the friend that was in my mom's car when we were driving around and introduced me to Dodger baseball along with Jerry Doggett, his broadcast partner. Fernando had this magnetism, if you will, almost a childlike magnetism over everyone. And it didn't matter the ages, but I saw Fernando as a youngster at the end of 1980 that was called up, that was in the bullpen, to where then he was going to be in the bullpen in 81, but because of an injury to Jerry Royce before opening day of the season, Tommy Lasorda said, look, we're not going to disrupt the rest of the starting rotation because they were already in a workload situation. They just go to the bullpen and get Fernando. Well, he started opening day, and the story went, he threw 8 consecutive shutouts, 8 victories on that end of it, and he never moved out of the starting rotation. Everywhere we went, Fernando became a bigger and bigger story. Not necessarily a star, because he never really wanted the spotlight, but he became a star everywhere he went. And to see children look at Fernando when they first saw him, or an adult for that matter, he opened up a whole lot of avenues, I think, from a cultural standpoint, from a baseball standpoint, and very saddened that we have lost someone that meant so much to us, and I think meant so much to the Dodgers organization, to this entire community. and really to Major League Baseball for that matter.
Yeah, he was bigger than life. I remember when he first started on the Dodgers, and this is how it was sort of. There was a movie, Disney movie called The World's Greatest Athlete, where they went to Africa and found this Nanu who was an unbelievable athlete. They brought him back to the United States, and he was huge. And there was sort of a real life, Disney movie, in going to Mexico and finding this kid in a town of 1,000 people, recognizing that he has talent and bring him to Los Angeles. And I remember, Rick, when he started, there was a rumor, and I don't know if it was true or not. Back then there was no internet to check it, but nobody really knew how old he was. Nobody really even saw his birth certificates. That's how small of a town he came out of Mexico.
Yeah, that's true. But then Tommy Lasorda said he never went to the mound to talk to a pitcher and ask for his birth certificate either. But you're true. What you're bringing up is exactly right. Mike Brito, who was the scout, the gentleman with a white hat,
right
behind home plate with the radar gun when Fernando was pitching, and everyone else was pitching at that particular time for the Dodgers. He was down scouting a different player in Mexico.
Oh wow!
When he spotted Fernando. And he came back and told the Dodgers, "Hey, I just saw this left-hander that is very interesting." And Fernando went from being the first couple of times out. I think the reaction of people, he went from being interesting to a big star. I mean, I saw something yesterday, just going over. Dealing with calling some of my teammates and teammates of Fernando yesterday and spending time and just talking about him. The attendance at Dodger Stadium, from what I'm seeing, increased once he went from interesting to the star. An additional, I think it was 8,000 per game
wow.
when he was pitching. And then we saw that really accumulate, that interest, as we went around the country, for that matter. Everywhere we went, the Fernando story became a huge story, and yet he was able to, I think, compartmentalize all of this recognition that he had, which was the same way he was on the field too, Tim, because in talking to teammates, we never saw him at a loss on what to do with the baseball once he had it in his hand, once it was hit to him, or even as a hitter, once it was thrown to him. Remember back in those dark ages when the pitchers actually hit?
That's
yeah.
right.
Well, Fernando, it's almost as if he had lived this before.
And he also did something I don't see you'll ever see anymore. I think he had 20 complete games that year.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get entire leagues with that many complete games.
Wow.
He would throw 130 pitches. I think there was a game he threw 140 pitches. Nobody counted the pitches. What they counted were the 27 outs he was able to register and the victories that the Dodgers had. So it was, even though we knew ahead of time, some of us, this was not going to end well. We were going to lose a very good friend of ours.
It's too bad that he could, when Tommy Lasorda was sick in 2020, he was able to see one more World Series. It's too bad that Fernando couldn't hold on for another week.
Absolutely. And whenever we walked around, whether it was in the stadium or wherever it may have been, when people saw Fernando, he was like the Pied Piper. Honest to goodness. I mean, everywhere that he went, and he was so gentle. The other part about Fernando, it reflects back to where years ago when Tommy was the manager. I remember in spring training in Vero Beach, Tommy would initially, the very first day of spring training, he would say, "Hey guys, whatever it was last year we did, this is what we need to do. We're going to do this, this, and this. Here's my coaches." Introduce a guy, and he would every year would call in Roy Campanella, and Campy was there, and Campy would come in his wheelchair, and he would start out, "Well, fellas," in a very gentle voice. But he addressed the entire team. And one of the things he always said was, we need to let that little child inside each and every one of us to come out and play occasionally.
Right.
Well, Fernando did that on a regular basis because at times, he was that 15-year-old, it seemed like, in the dugout, taking in all of this. And then all of a sudden, when he needed a big game, that 15-year-old went to the mound like he had been around for 10 or 15 years at the major league level, and just as gritty as you can imagine.
Yeah. You know, the one thing, we got to take a quick break here, but the one thing I always appreciated about Fernando Valenzuela, and I mean this honestly, he was a man of the people, and you could tell because he never had a sports coat or a suit that fit him properly.
One thing about it, he was genuine every day.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, can you hold on a second? Can you stay with us?
Sure.
Oh,
sure.
excellent. Okay. Rick Monday's with us. We'll talk about the Dodgers coming up on Friday. They're hosting the New York Yankees in the World Series. And we'll talk a little more about Fernando Valenzuela, of course, and the Dodgers coming up. Yankees this Friday, World Series 508 on 570 AM, our sister station. Ding dong with these Dodgers.
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. on demand from KFI AM 640.
Rick Monday is with us, one of the broadcasters for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Rick, I'd never asked you this before, but I know this in 100% of guys that do play-by-play or color for baseball. They grew up listening to their favorite broadcaster. Who was it for you?
There was only one, Vinny, and
Okay.
Jerry Doggett was his broadcast partner. I mean, that was my influence. And I always said about Vinny is that whether you actually met him or not, he was your friend.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
weird.
the way that he came across. And he was the same person in person that we thought that he was on the radio or if he was on the television. But he was in our car growing up in Santa Monica, listening all the time, to Dodger games.
Yeah, sure.
That was, they were our friends. They brought this intriguing, sometimes frustrating game of baseball to us in all kinds of different forms. So it's going to be interesting now too. What's going to happen Friday, Game 1 of the World Series? And again, it's a matchup between the Dodgers and the New York Yankees for the 12th time in history.
Sure.
These two teams match up.
I heard a great story that Mel Allen, 1963, Dodgers Yankees. Playing early October 2nd through the 6th or 7th. And now we're going to extend into, looks like November. But Mel Allen got laryngitis, and on Game 4, I guess the 5th or 6th inning in Game 4, he was unable to broadcast anymore because he lost his voice. And the kid that stepped in for him was Vin Scully.
Yeah. Vinny told the story also a couple of different times where he did football very, very early in his career. I don't know if it was just he may have still been in college at Fordham or just immediately after. But he thought that he would be in the press box doing the call. It was in the winter. And they said, no, you're on top of the press box. And he was up there. He barely had a coat with him, and it had to be somewhere around 30 degrees. And he was talking about doing that broadcast that particular time. But he always, it's something he wanted to do and with great passion. And to listen to Vin Scully when he would do a broadcast, I think we would all wonder, Tim, quite frankly, if English wasn't our second language after listening to Vin, because he had complete control of it.
And I enjoyed, the games where the Dodgers were up or down by 10 runs more than I did the sweat games because he could tell these great stories.
Yeah, and he had something else that a lot of people overlook. Things have changed in the broadcasting now. And I think it was Walter O'Malley that believed many, many years ago that one person behind the microphone was a broadcast and two guys was a conversation. And Vin was able to present the game of baseball without having someone next to him, which allowed him to expand upon the story, allowed him to continue on through. Yes, he wouldn't miss action on the field, but he didn't have to feel as if he had to share the booth and the microphone with someone else. He was working alone. So that's why he was enabled to be able to tell those stories at length. But we used to laugh all the time. They always tell you, look, don't start a story with two outs. Well, then he could start a story with 2 outs and 2 strikes, and it seemed like the hitter must have realized that he was telling a story because he foul off 15 pitches until Ben was finishing the story. In fact, there's this real quickly, Jerry Royce was on the mound pitching for the Dodgers. I don't remember if it was a day game or night game, doesn't really matter, but he could hear. Everybody would bring transistor radios to the stadium at that time in the late 70s. and you could hear Vinny's voice. You couldn't make out exactly from the field or in the dugout exactly what he was saying, but you knew he was talking. And sometimes you could hear the crowd, and Vin would tell his story and kind of manipulate the crowd into an ooh or an ah or maybe a chuckle. And Royce told the stories, and he knew Vin was close to the end of the story, so he backed off the mound for a few seconds, and he heard the chuckle by everybody in the stands. He goes, okay,
Wow.
I'm fine. Now I can go ahead and make the next pitch.
Is that right? That's an incredible story. That is wild. That he could even hear it on the mound. That's unbelievable.
You could not make out what he was saying, but that's before everybody was putting in the earbuds and people being transistor radios, and it might be 3 rows in front of you. Say, hey, turn it up a little bit louder. You would, and they kind of shared that experience. So that was kind of unique itself.
One of the huge compliments I think you could ever give Vin Scully is I saw this. I went to a game with my dad. I think it was like 1973. I must have been 9 or 10 years old. And I saw a middle-aged couple in front of us, and they both had their radios, and they both had their headphones on, and they sat next to each other and never said a word to each other for 9 innings.
No, because they were listening to their friend tell them about the Dodgers and telling stories.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the game. Can you please stay with us for one more segment?
Hey, for you, I will.
Oh,
but,
you're the best.
Your producer, Sharon, is delightful. She called a little bit earlier, and my first reaction was, what, you haven't been able to escape yet? I mean, what, you guys locked the door from the outside or what?
That's right.
And you offered to bake a cake with a...
We'll put a file in it so you can escape at some point.
Thank you, Rick.
All right, hold on a sec. Rick Monday's with us. We'll come back and talk about the Yankees and Dodgers. It's Friday. It's the day after tomorrow. We're 48 hours away from opening pitch. 48 and a half hours away from opening pitch.
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. on demand from KFI AM 640.
If you eat too many ultra-processed foods, you could be starving your gut microbes, and they'll get hangry. That's one of many things I learned after working on a new audio course about the gut microbiome. You can learn how to keep your gut happy by listening to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn. I host Try This. Dig in with me on practical advice for life's common challenges. Follow Try This right now wherever you're listening. Seriously, try it.
And now they're doing it to Guerrero, hoping to distract him, hoping to upset him, hoping perhaps to make him try too hard. Fernando ready, and the strike 2 pitch is hit back to the box, dribbling to second. Samuel on the bag, throws to first, double play. Fernando Valenzuela has pitched a no-hitter at 10:17 in the evening of June the 29th, 1990. If you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky.
There he goes, Fernando Valenzuela, his no-hitter called by Vin Scully. Rick Monday is with us. Rick, I had sent a text to my cousins and my sister and my brother hours before Fernando died, and I put that line in, if you have a sombrero, you can throw it to the sky. And I think he's the only guy in 2024 that can get away with exactly that phrase.
Yeah, and listening to that call, not only did he tell you what was happening, he put a time stamp on it, and where he came up with the sombrero, throw it to the sky. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
And if you watch that play,
wordsmith you just can't find.
And if you watch that play, Fernando hit that ball and curved it towards second base to get that double play.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Amazing what was going to happen. So now we're going to find out what happens this year.
That's right.
Here's a side story for you.
Sure.
Dave Roberts and Aaron Boone, who's the manager of the Yankees, they played against one another in college.
Oh, wow.
Dave for UCLA, Aaron for USC. And Roberts came up with a great line. He says, hey, we weren't friends. And he says, I really didn't care too much for him back then. He says, I'm sure he didn't care too much for me back then either. So now they're going to be on opposite ends of the spectrum as far as managers. Quick story. I've known Aaron Boone since he was a kid.
Oh, wow.
He's a third-generation Major League player to begin with. And I knew Aaron, my son Mike, who is a coach at Golden West College, they were on the same Pop Warner team.
Oh, wow. Is that right?
And Aaron was a running back. We used to kid. He goes, "Hey, you're the one Boone in your family that has some speed." So yeah, it goes way back. And I was with Mike yesterday down. His team was playing at El Camino College, and I went down there and watched that game yesterday. But yeah, my son Mike and Aaron were on the same Pop Warner football team down in Yorba Linda.
Small world, very small world. All right, so it's been 1981 since the Yankees have been here for a World Series. Fox has got to be loving this for ratings, and I think the entire nation will be watching. I think it's East Coast, West Coast. It's a big deal. I also think that Donald Trump is from New York. Kamala Harris is from Los Angeles. There's that factor. There's also the factor that Matt Drudge and Shohei Ohtani, their very first World Series, and they're also going to be probably MVP from the American League and National League, and the very first time they meet in the World Series. There's a lot of things coming together for this series.
Well, you mentioned MVPs. How about this? There's going to be 5 players playing in this World Series that have won an MVP award. That's the most effort in a World Series. You've got Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, and for the Yankees, you've got Judge and for Stanton. The 9 previous World Series, it had 4 MVPs. The last time, this is the first time there's been this many since 1971 to have 5 players, MVP players in a World Series. So, and you also have the 2 league-leading home run hitters with Ohtani and with Judge also. That's not happened since 1956 when it was Mickey Mantle and Duke Snider.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And that was another Dodger and Yankee matchup. So the first time that's happened in a number of years as well. There's a lot of different things that really take place in this. And Jack Flaherty is going to start for the Dodgers. It'll be Cole on the mound for the New York. And for Flaherty, it'll be 1 week after a disappointing outing that he had in New York against the Mets, where he went just 3 innings. But we found out afterwards that he was very ill. And yet he took the ball and answered the bell. It didn't work out well for him. But
what did he have, by the way? Nobody's ever disclosed what he had. Did he have the flu or a cold?
He just felt crummy.
Oh.
It was just one of those. I don't know if he had a fever. We were not in the locker room. We don't have access to the locker room, and I've always felt championship series, that locker room is for the players. It's not for us. If I see him on the field, that's all well and good.
And so, sort of like a Super Bowl and the Breeders' Cup, when during the Super Bowl, the NFL comes in and takes over the arena, but it's always it's always an arena that except for recently with the Rams that they played at home, it's usually at a neutral arena. But when Major League Baseball takes over during the World Series, they take over both stadiums and they call all the shots.
You got that right.
Yeah.
Well, MLB believes that they own just about everything in the Western Hemisphere, and especially 2 ballparks going to be played.
Rick, you remember? Obviously, you remember when in 1981, 1988, when the Dodgers played the Yankees and then they played the A's. All the press used to sit up behind home plate in the second deck. They reserved that whole area for the press. Now the press is on the top deck, way out in the left field, and the reporters doesn't seem like any of them want to go out there, and they don't go out there.
Well, they have to go out there because the press box, the actual press box that you're aware of, is full. Right. It's like a standing room only. So there's other areas down. Yeah, it's high up. They get a real good view if the ball's fair or foul going around the left field foul pole because they can almost reach out and touch it. But it is what it is, and you can only put so many people in the press box itself.
I wanted to say one more thing because I know you got to go. You got a very busy 48 hours until the game starts. But I got an email last night that I thought was really great. Everyone's made a big deal about LeBron James and Bronny James playing in the NBA, father son together. Griffey and Griffey Jr. in baseball. But I got an email, and I know you'll be into this because I know your background. Every single day in the streets of Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, United States, there are father and sons who are on police forces patrolling the neighborhoods, and nobody makes a big deal out of that.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And from a generational standpoint too. I mean, you have entire families that pass it down, whether it be first responders, military, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
This gets focus of attention. Obviously, it doesn't happen that often, but you're absolutely right.
That's
there's so many different things. It's always fun to talk to you about because I remember you sharing with us years ago that as a kid growing up at night when the Dodgers are playing, you would be on your bed and you would put on your bed, spread out who's playing in left field and center field and right field and move them around as the game. So, you've been in the need of counseling for a long time.
I will be honest with you. Once I got into junior high and high school and told that to some of the girls in my class, not that impressive.
Well, you'll be on the air Friday at game time, so maybe you can put it on your desk in front of you.
That's right.
But we'll try and move the Dodger runners around a little bit, more often.
And I loved collecting baseball cards back then because a guy would play his entire career with a team, and you would just look at the name and you would instantly know what team he was with because the guy played 15 years for the same team.
Yeah. Well, you did not have free agency. Yeah. And the other part, too, is very seldom did you go from one league to the other.
Right.
If you were traded.
Yeah, that's right. But I really appreciate coming on. Go Dodgers. I hope they win, and I hope you get another ring, and then have a great offseason. You deserve it.
Okay. Well, just make sure you clear the desk in front of you on Friday night and on Saturday, too, and move the Dodger runners around.
All right, thank you, man. I appreciate it. All right, there he goes. Rick Monday. That's great that he remembered that. But, yeah, as a kid, I had a green bread spread, and I used to put masking tape because I was punished a lot as a kid, mostly for things I did. And I put masking tape for on the foul lines, then masking tape in the outfield. And I'd get my Dodgers and Cincinnati Reds cards out, my baseball cards, and I'd move them around and I'd place them on the field and I could see the game while listening to Vin Scully. I could see the game in front of me because I had the baseball cards on my green blanket. That's amazing. He remembered that. That's wild. All right. Small world. Maybe not that many stations available where he's listening to that all the time.
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. on demand from KFI AM 640.
If you eat too many ultra-processed foods, you could be starving your gut microbes, and they'll get hangry. That's one of many things I learned after working on a new audio course about the gut microbiome. You can learn how to keep your gut happy by listening to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn. I host Try This. Dig in with me on practical advice for life's common challenges. Follow Try This right now wherever you're listening. Seriously, try it.
Vassay had to go off and do his Dodgers stuff. That guy's great. And you'll hear a lot from that dude. Man, that guy's the best. All right, let's get this. The chase that a lot of people saw this afternoon ended up in the Grapevine. A very sad ending where the woman, I was watching television. I can't remember what station it was. And I was watching the broadcast of that chase. And one of the anchors at one of the local news stations said, "Oh, because it's a woman, it makes the chase much more interesting." I'm like, really? I thought women were in this game for a while. But I guess not. They're new to the game. But it was a woman and had to be at her wit's end. She was, I don't know, evidently suicidal and running away from the cops. And even at the end, she could have taken out 3 or 4 or 5 innocent people with her. And she didn't. She killed herself, but she didn't take anyone out who was an innocent bystander. So even with all that depression, all that anxiety, all that fear, but being chased by cops, all that anger at the end, with all that working in her mind, she still didn't take out innocent people. You got to give her that. All right, here's what happened literally about an hour ago, maybe an hour and a half ago, on the chase that ended up off the 5 freeway up in the Grapevine area.
We showed you this live within the hour, a frightening end to a high-speed pursuit.
It ended in a deadly crash on the 5 freeway headed towards Gorman.
Bad situation that the way this ended here after LAPD started chasing this stolen vehicle and then eventually gave it over to the CHP. I want to go live now to SkyCal, who is overhead the 5 and the 138. You see here, that is where the crash came to. This is where this all came to an end. Southbound 5 on the 138. Now, it appears that the suspect may have seen some spike strips and tried to veer off of the roadway to get away from them. We know that there were spike strips coming up just an exit before this.
And she was going 120 to 130 miles. You can fly. When you're up in the Grapevine, it's very hilly. You go uphill for a couple miles, you go down for a couple miles. But when you're on the Magic Mountain side, the Valencia side, and you're coming down, you can get up to 150, 160 miles an hour. For the last 7 or 8 miles, it's straight downhill. And then on the other side as well, going towards Bakersfield, the last 5 or 6 miles, straight down. 140, 150 easily on any car. I
want to take you to some video here of the pursuit, though. It was intense, and it was at very high speeds, upwards of 120 miles an hour at times, weaving in and out between big rigs on the shoulder, even through construction zones. Now, we are still getting some details about exactly how this car was stolen and when, but the LAPD Devonshire Division originally chased it. There was one woman inside of the car that was running very, very aggressively from the LAPD, and then eventually the CHP as they go northbound through the 5 here. The shoulder driving was something that we saw very, very commonly. Now, she actually made it all the way to the other side of the county line, up into Kern County, before she gets through this construction zone there. You see hit some of the cones. Thankfully, there were no construction workers in that area. That's what got CHP to back off, was that construction zone. She apparently at some point realized this as she was near the outlets at Fort Tejon, where she exits, gets back on the southbound side, and those same units were right there waiting for her. Now, we're going to show you in just a moment video of the crash. We do want to warn you, it is graphic to watch. I have paused it before the moments of the impact. We'll go ahead and show you that video here.
Okay, the video, they're not going to show it anymore on TV. And as soon as Channel 5 and Channel 9 showed it, they said, hey, we're not going to reverse this and show it to you. But what they don't realize is that about 95% of the people who are watching it have a DVR, and you can just literally press the reverse button and look at it yourself. You don't need to have local news show it to you anymore. And it's also on Twitter. It's everywhere. So if they don't show it to you, it's not a big deal. You just have to go through another step to do it yourself and show it. And it's all over the place. So I don't understand why they keep doing that. Why they can't say, oh, we can't show it. They do the same thing on football games. When a guy runs naked across the field, right. Like, oh, we can't show it to you. Okay, well, the first thing I do is I pause the game and I go to YouTube. Yep. And I see 9 angles of it.
And this is why local news and news in general, in a lot of ways, is not keeping up with technology and the times.
It's got to change. It's got to change because we all want to see it. We all want to see it. We want to see everything. Everything.
And you'll see what I'm talking about. She apparently may have seen something, because that's where the spike strips were, veers off the side of the road, over the gore point, onto the off-ramp, or the transition road, rather. And that is when she comes to the shoulder here, hits the dirt patch, swerves, and there you can see right before she hits the guardrail. She goes head-on into the guardrail. The car would eventually flip, and we had heard from CHP that she died as a result, that one person inside that car died as a result of the crash. And here it is one more time. You can see she hits the dirt patch here on the side of the shoulder, loses control, and that's when she goes head-on right in there to that center divider. I'll take you back live now to Sky Cal, who's still over that scene, where this will now be an hours-long investigation, as the California Highway Patrol's major accident investigation team has to come out here and do a full investigation, not only because of the death during this traffic collision, but because it was during the course of a CHP pursuit, as those officers were actively pursuing her. Those spike strips, just a couple hundred feet from where she decided to veer off the freeway. Unclear if she actually saw those spike strips, and that's what caused her to veer, but certainly they were right about to be in front of her. And then she made that turn across all lanes of the freeway onto the transition road and unfortunately crashed and lost her life.
Yeah, and fairly selfish at the end, because she didn't kill anybody. I'll give her that. But now she's got, 5, 10, 15 police officers that have to go in and look at that and then have to go home to their families. It's like, about 3 or 4 times a year, you hear a guy doing, 85 miles an hour, and then bang, he flies into the Grand Canyon right off the edge. And, it's Roadrunner time, where he goes down, there's a little puff of smoke, and he or she is gone. Well, okay. Again, they didn't take anybody out, but the park rangers now have to clean that up. And so they've got to clean that up. They got to see the dead body, probably, probably dismembered. And then they got to go home to their family and keep that inside them and keep 1 million of those things inside of them. And it's a lot. It takes its toll. That's why cops, when, as they get older and they retire, a lot of them turn to heavy drinking because they've kept a lot inside of them over the years. A lot. This is one of them. This incident is one of them. All right. We are 48 hours away from the Dodgers starting. 48 hours and 10 minutes away from first pitch at Dodger Stadium. First time the Yankees have played at Dodger Stadium for the World Series since 1981. What a week in Los Angeles. A lot of events going on Friday as well. When we come back, we'll tell you all about them. There are 6 major events going on Friday afternoon into Friday evening, and we're going to tell you about all of them. When we come back, we'll continue to tell you about all of them and how to get to the stadium on Friday. You're going to want to listen to KFI all day on Friday because there's going to be traffic everywhere. 6 major events going on. We'll tell you about all of them when we come back. We're live on KFI AM 640.
Conway Show on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Now, you can always hear us live on KFI AM 640, 4 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and anytime on demand on the iHeartRadio app.
If you eat too many ultra-processed foods, you could be starving your gut microbes, and they'll get hangry. That's one of many things I learned after working on a new audio course about the gut microbiome. You can learn how to keep your gut happy by listening to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn. I host Try This. Dig in with me on practical advice for life's common challenges. Follow Try This right now wherever you're listening. Seriously, try it.